Hi class, this is Mrs. Baker, and today will be our first lesson with Scratch. We've already talked about game components, what makes a good game, but it's very important that you know the tools and basically have a little tour of Scratch before starting with your partner and understanding how to build the games. Okay? So first, whenever we build a new game, after you've signed in, you need to click on Create, and this will take you to a blank screen or stage area that we'll talk about so that you can get started with your game. So I'm waiting for my screen to get uploaded here. Okay, so we just hit create, and we are now into basically the tour so that we can get started on a game. Okay, I'm going to be showing you with my mouse pointer, so follow along as I show you. It may be kind of boring because you may already know what certain things might do or what they mean since we have gone over them, but I do want to show you since we are in the actual Scratch play mode. Okay, so to begin, if we were ever needing to change languages, for instance, if we had a student who could speak Spanish, this little button right here, and I am going to zoom in. Here we go. This little button right here that looks like a couple circles on top of one another, this allows you to change the language. So if we ever need the language change, that would be the button that you'd want to click. The button File. These are just menu items, File, Edit, and Tips. So we could make a new screen or a new page. We could save anything, make a copy of something. But the most ones that you'll need are these first three right here in the File. And Edit. The Undelete button is very similar to the Undo button. The only problem is you can only hit the Undelete button one time. So if you make a mistake and it's 2 steps ago, you can't undelete the 2 steps. You can only undelete one. But for the most part, as you're going, you'll be checking yourself, or I will be coming around checking to make sure that you're where you're supposed to be. So we shouldn't really need the undelete. And then Tips. Oops, very slipped in. Tips off to the side, they do have a step-by-step or how to, just what each blocks mean. And it's just a little extra info if for some reason we had a substitute and I wasn't here or your partner wasn't here. You could use the tips because maybe that partner was really smart with certain aspects of the game. This tips would be very helpful. Okay, I'm going to go back to my regular mode here. Cursor tools, I never used any as I was doing any of these games. I don't intend on any of you to as well. Okay. But here are the main buttons, tabs that you will be using. Okay, the Scripts tab. The scripts help build a code or an action that your sprite will be doing, which is your character. Okay, you have motion, looks, sounds, pen, data, events, control, sensing, operators, and more blocks. Throughout this whole book, I did not use the more blocks or the pen ever. Okay, but maybe the pen once. I can't remember now. But all of these other ones you will be using pretty frequently. Okay, costumes. The costumes tabs let you change sprites and how they look. So you could exchange, if we have a cat here, you could change it to a dog. You could change it to a bird, just by doing this without having to add a new script. Okay. And then the Sounds tab, it lets you add music or a sound effect to a game. So you can make a sprite, if it's a cat for instance, you can make the cat meow. You could make the cat bark. So whatever you want to do, or you can add a sound if you're trying to catch a certain object in a game. Okay, so those are all good things that you'll need to know. This here. This area, this dark gray area over here where you see the little cat and the XY, this is called your scripts area. And you can drag blocks into this part of the Scratch window and join them together to build scripts for each of the sprites in your game. Now, whichever sprite that you see up here in this corner, that's the sprite that you're building for. Okay, so if you have 5 or 6 different sprites down here, you really need to make sure that you are on the correct sprite so that the correct script goes with the correct sprite. Okay. Let's see here. If you would ever need to zoom in, zoom out, over on this side, we have our stage. This stage is just a smaller look of what you see right up here. And then to make that full screen, this blue button that you see makes it full screen so that when you are done with your game, you could play it with your partner. Click that back, and you are back to your normal size. The green button means go. Red means stop. In our sprites area here, oops, I'm sorry, I missed. When the stage, if you're ever trying to look for a new background, similar to like your screensaver or your backdrop on your computer, the small button right here off to the very far left, this is your library of different outside or indoor pictures. You could be on the beach, you could be in the ocean, you could be at the school, you could be at a basketball game. Okay, and you can find whichever backdrops they have. All of the games that we'll be creating will use a backdrop from the library. We will not be creating our own, but if you would purchase your own book and do something, you could definitely use pictures that you've used maybe from family vacations. The possibilities are limitless with that. And then finally, your sprites area. When I say the word sprite, try and think of it as a character in the game. Okay, so to add a new character or a new sprite, you would click on the little guy that looks like an alien. And again, we will not be creating any sprites that are too difficult. There's a couple that we will create, but for the most part, they walk us step by step on how to create them. But most of them we will find in the actual library. Other than that, I think that's just the main basics that I wanted to get told to you, so we can now start our new games, and I will get started with that in the next video.